Daniel had always seen his grandfather Andres as a figure of strength and wisdom, a fundamental pillar in his life. Andres was the soul of the family cafe, a small cozy corner in the neighborhood where everyone knew his name. Since childhood, Daniel had spent countless hours there, watching his grandfather serve coffee with a smile and listen to the neighbors' stories with infinite patience. That cafe was not just a business, was a place where relationships were built and important moments were shared. The connection between Daniel and Andres went beyond the ordinary. It was a relationship woven with threads of love and mutual respect. Over the years, Andres had taught Daniel not only the secrets of making a good coffee but also values of honesty, hard work, and compassion. Daniel fondly remembered the days when, at barely 7 years old, he would climb a chair behind the counter to help his grandfather. Every cup of coffee must be made with love, Andres would say, and Daniel took those words as a mantra. Over time, Andres began to show signs of aging and illness. What was once inexhaustible energy turned into fatigue, and his once steady hands started to tremble slightly. Seeing his grandfather age and get sick was a hard blow for Daniel, who did not hesitate for a second to take on the responsibility of caring for him. Daniel knew that his grandfather would never ask for help, but he did not need him to. It was his turn to give back all the love and dedication that Andres had given him over the years. Daniel's days were divided between his university studies and attending to his grandfather. He helped him dress, prepared his favorite meals, and made sure he took his medication on time. But beyond daily tasks, Daniel strove to keep the spark of joy alive in Andres' eyes. He told him about his classes, his dreams, and his friends, trying to ease the weight of the illness with conversations full of hope. The bond between them strengthened with each passing day. Despite the fatigue and stress, Daniel felt a deep satisfaction in caring for his grandfather. Every gesture of gratitude from Andres, every smile, fueled his determination. There was something profoundly gratifying in being there for the person who had been his hero all his life. However, Daniel was also aware of his grandfather's fragility. There were nights when Andres would stare into space, lost in thoughts that Daniel could not decipher. There were days when it seemed the weight of the years and the illness was too much for him. But Daniel never stopped being there, offering his shoulder and his unconditional support. For Daniel, taking care of Andres was not just an act of love, but also a way to preserve the family legacy. The cafe that Andres had built with so much effort was a symbol of their heritage, and Daniel was determined to protect it. Although the circumstances were difficult, he clung to hope and the belief that, with his dedication and the support of his community, he could keep that legacy alive. And so, day by day, Daniel continued his work, inspired by his grandfather's example. He knew that every moment shared was a treasure and that every sacrifice was worth it. Because in Daniel's heart, Andres would always be the guide and inspiration to face any adversity. Lately, something had changed in Andres' behavior, something that deeply disturbed Daniel. The man who had always been a rock of stability and wisdom began to show signs of inexplicable distress. Daniel noticed it in his eyes, which now seemed dull and filled with a sadness that hadn't been there before. The nights became longer and full of restless whispers, and the days turned into a constant struggle against a dark cloud that seemed to envelop his grandfather. Daniel couldn't understand the source of this profound discomfort. He had tried talking to Andres, trying to unravel the origin of his pain, but always met with evasions or vague answers. "It's just old age, Daniel," his grandfather would say with a forced smile. However, Daniel knew there was more. The marked dark circles under Andres' eyes and his constant sighs bore witness to an inner suffering that Daniel couldn't ignore. Helplessness began to gnaw at Daniel inside. Every time he saw his grandfather, absorbed in dark thoughts, he felt a knot in his stomach. He tried everything to alleviate that sadness, took him for walks in the park, organized visits from close friends, and bought him his favorite sweets. But nothing seemed to dispel the emotional storm that battered Andres. His grandfather, who had always been a bastion of strength, now seemed fragile and broken. The nights were especially difficult. Daniel often heard his grandfather murmuring in his sleep, sometimes uttering names he didn't recognize. There was a deep pain in those words, an echo of a past that seemed to haunt Andres. Daniel spent hours awake, sitting by his grandfather's bed, holding his hand and wishing he could do more. The feeling of helplessness was overwhelming, and each day without answers increased his anguish. One day, while preparing breakfast, Daniel observed Andres sitting in his favorite chair, staring out the window. There was such palpable sadness in his expression that Daniel felt his heart break a little more. He approached and put a comforting hand on his grandfather's shoulder. "Grandpa, please, let me help you. You don't have to carry this burden alone," he said softly. Andres looked at him with tear-filled eyes, something Daniel had never seen before. "It's not easy, son. There are things from the past that don't disappear, that come back when you least expect it," he said with a trembling voice. Daniel hugged him, feeling Andres' desperation as if it were his own. "You're not alone, Grandpa. We'll get through this together," he promised, though inside he felt lost. The situation worsened, and Daniel's worry grew. He saw how fear and sadness consumed his grandfather, and though he didn't fully understand the source of this anguish, he was determined to find a way to help him. Daniel knew he had to uncover the root of that hidden pain, because only then could he bring peace to his grandfather, and, with it, to himself. Thus, with a heavy but determined heart, Daniel set out to investigate Andres' past. He began to ask subtle questions to friends and neighbors, looking for clues that could shed light on the source of that anguish. The deeper he dug, the more he realized that there were buried secrets in his family's history, secrets that perhaps held the key to relieving his grandfather's suffering. Daniel was prepared to face any truth he found because he knew that Andres' emotional health depended on it. No matter how painful the discovery might be, he was willing to do whatever it took to bring peace to the man who had been his guide and protector. Daniel's suspicions about his sister Sophia's strange behavior began to arise when he noticed how she avoided their grandfather and rarely visited the cafe. She had always been close to Andres, but lately her visits were brief and tense. Growing more worried about Andres' inexplicable distress, Daniel decided to pay closer attention to Sophia's actions. One afternoon, Daniel found his grandfather crying in the kitchen. It was a heartbreaking sight. "What's wrong, Grandpa? Why are you like this?" Andres, with a broken voice, could only say, "Sophia?" That name was like an alarm ringing in Daniel's mind. Determined to understand what was happening, he began to follow his sister's movements more closely. It was then that he discovered the devastating truth. One night, while Sophia thought everyone was asleep, Daniel heard her having a phone conversation. He hid in the hallway's darkness and listened intently. "Yes, I almost have everything under control. Grandpa is so weak he won't even realize what's happening. The cafe will be ours. We just need him to sign those papers," Sophia said, her voice filled with a coldness that Daniel didn't recognize. Daniel like a sledgehammer. The betrayal of his own sister, someone he had always trusted, was almost unbearable. Sophia was manipulating Andres' vulnerability to take over the cafe, the heart of their family. The mix of fury and sadness that engulfed him was overwhelming. How could his sister, whom he had always loved and protected, be capable of something so despicable? Determined to confront her, Daniel waited until she finished the call. He confronted her. In the living room, his voice trembling with indignation. "How could you, Sophia? How? Can you betray Grandpa like this? What are you doing?" Sophia, surprised and visibly nervous, tried to defend herself. "Daniel, you don't understand. This is for the good of all of us. The cafe is in decline, and Grandpa can't manage it anymore. Someone has to take control." Taking control at the cost of his health and happiness. You're manipulating a sick man for your own benefit, Daniel shouted, unable to contain his rage. Tears began to roll down Sophia's cheeks. "It's not that simple, Daniel. You don't know how hard it's been for me. I've always been in your and Grandpa's shadow. I want to do something for myself, and this is the only way." "In this way? By doing this to our own family? I can't believe it, Sophia. I don't recognize you," Daniel said, his voice full of disappointment. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. His mind was constantly churning, replaying Sophia's betrayal and his grandfather's pain. He felt like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. He had to protect Andres and the cafe, and at the same time, he couldn't simply ignore the reality that Sophia was his sister. The sense of betrayal was deep, but so was his desire to find a solution that could heal the open wounds. With a heart full of pain and determination, Daniel decided he would face these challenges with the same strength and honesty that his grandfather had taught him. He would not allow Sophia's selfish actions to destroy what Andres had built with so much love and dedication. He knew the road ahead would be difficult, but he was willing to fight for his family and the legacy he so valued. Daniel knew he couldn't just stand by. Sophia's betrayal had deeply affected him, but instead of giving in to despair, he decided he would save the cafe and his grandfather's legacy at any cost. He knew he would face numerous challenges, but determination burned within him like an inextinguishable fire. The first step was to talk to Andres. One morning, after preparing breakfast, he sat down in front of his grandfather and explained the situation. He told him about the conversation he had overheard and Sophia's true intentions. Andres, with tears in his eyes, nodded slowly. "I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't imagine it was this serious," he said with a trembling voice. "Grandpa, don't worry. I will do everything possible to save the cafe. Not just for you, but for everything it means to our family and the community," Daniel promised, taking his grandfather's hands in his own. Determined to act, Daniel began preparing and selling coffee and pastries door to door. He knew every recipe by heart, having learned them from Andres since childhood. He would get up at dawn to bake and then go out with a big smile and a basket full of homemade goodies. His love for the cafe and his grandfather gave him the energy needed to face each day with optimism. At first, sales were slow. People in the neighborhood weren't used to seeing Daniel selling in this way, but his enthusiasm and the quality of his products soon began to attract more and more customers. Daniel worked tirelessly, not letting fatigue or discouragement stop him. Each time he sold a cup of coffee or a pastry, he felt he was one step closer to his goal. The community's support didn't take long to arrive. The neighbors, who had a deep affection for Andres and the cafe, began to offer their help. Some donated ingredients, others helped with baking, and many bought his products regularly. Daniel was moved by each gesture of solidarity, feeling how the whole neighborhood united to support him in his mission. With the money raised, Daniel was able to pay for part of his grandfather's medical treatment. Seeing Andres receive the care he needed filled Daniel with indescribable satisfaction. Every doctor's visit, every small sign of improvement in Andres' health, reinforced his determination. Days passed, and Daniel not only fought to keep the cafe afloat, but also to renovate it. He started planning a series of improvements that would modernize the place without losing its essence. He was inspired by childhood memories, by the stories Andres had told him, and by the happy moments shared in that space. He wanted the cafe not only to survive, but to become the vibrant heart of the community once again. Nights were the only time Daniel allowed himself a break. He would sit in the small living room, a cup of tea in hand, reflecting on the day that had passed and planning the next. Sometimes, he found himself thinking about Sophia, about how they had gotten to this situation and what he could have done to prevent it. But he quickly shook off those thoughts, focusing on the present and what needed to be done. Despite the obstacles, Daniel felt he was on the right path. His love for his grandfather and the cafe propelled him forward. Every small victory, every smile from a satisfied customer, every word of encouragement from a neighbor reminded him that he was not alone in this fight. Daniel's determination to save the family legacy was not only an act of love and responsibility, but also a demonstration of the strength of the human spirit. Through his tireless effort and the community's support, he was determined to show that even in the darkest times, hope and perseverance could triumph. The community's support was not only a comfort, but a true salvation for Daniel. As he continued selling coffee and pastries door to door, the neighbors began to unite in unexpected ways. One day, Mrs. Martinez, who had known Andres since he opened the cafe, organized a collection among the neighbors to help with medical expenses and renovation costs for the cafe. Daniel was overwhelmed by everyone's generosity. Every contribution, no matter how small, was a reminder of how much they appreciated his grandfather and his business. One afternoon, while Daniel was delivering pastries, a group of young people from the neighborhood approached him. "We want to help you remodel the cafe," they said. They were kids who had spent much of their childhood in Andres' cafe, enjoying his stories and the cozy atmosphere. The proposal filled Daniel with emotion. He knew that with more hands working, they could achieve much more. So, the renovation work began. They painted the walls, fixed the furniture, and added new decorations that kept the place's traditional charm. Every day, more neighbors joined the work, bringing tools, materials, and above all, a lot of enthusiasm. The cafe began to transform, slowly regaining its former glory. During this time, Sophia returned. She had been absent during the initial renovations, facing her own demons. When she appeared at the door of the house, her eyes were filled with regret. "Daniel, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. "I let myself be carried away by ambition and fear. I thought taking control of the cafe was the only way to secure our future, but I was wrong." Daniel, though still hurt by the betrayal, saw the sincerity in his sister's eyes. He knew that the path to forgiveness would not be easy, but he also understood the importance of family and the possibility of redemption. "Sophia, what you did hurt us deeply, but if you really want to make amends, we need your help. Together, we can make the cafe the heart of the neighborhood again," he said firmly. Sophia nodded, determined to do things right. She joined the renovation team and, over time, began to regain the trust of Daniel and the neighbors. She worked tirelessly, bringing ideas and energy to ensure that the cafe not only reopened but was even better than before. The community continued to offer its support in various ways. Some organized events to raise additional funds, while others brought food and drinks for the volunteers working on the renovation. The solidarity and love that permeated the neighborhood were palpable. Every gesture, every word of encouragement strengthened Daniel's determination. Finally, the big day arrived. The cafe was ready to reopen its doors. The neighbors gathered in front of the place, anxious and excited. Andres, though still weak, had insisted on being present for this important moment. Daniel helped him to the door, where a large red ribbon awaited to be cut. With tears in his eyes, Andres took the scissors and addressed the crowd. This place has always been more than a cafe. It's a home for all of us, a place where stories are shared and memories are created. Thanks to all of you for your love and support. Today, we're not just reopening a cafe. We're reaffirming the spirit of our community, he said, his voice resonating with emotion. When Andres cut the ribbon, an ovation echoed throughout the neighborhood. The cafe came back to life, filled with laughter, conversations, and the delicious aroma of freshly made coffee. Sophia and Daniel, working side by side, served the first customers, sharing smiles and hugs. The reconciliation between the siblings was a testament to the power of forgiveness and unity. The community support had not only saved the cafe but also strengthened the bonds between everyone. Daniel, with a heart full of gratitude, knew that none of this would have been possible without them. The cafe became a symbol of resilience, love, and hope, a proof that together they could overcome any adversity. In the weeks following the cafe's reopening, Daniel began to notice a positive change in his grandfather Andres. Although he was still recovering, his demeanor was more relaxed, and his spirits improved day by day. However, the feeling that there was more to uncover about the sadness that had consumed his grandfather did not leave him. Daniel knew that to close that chapter and fully understand Andres' pain, he needed to unearth the secrets of the past. One day, while cleaning the attic of the cafe, Daniel found an old wooden box he had never seen before. It was covered in dust and seemed to have been forgotten for a long time. Curiosity led him to open it, and inside he found a collection of old letters, yellowed by time. They were love letters, written in elegant handwriting and signed by a woman named Isabel. With his heart racing, Daniel sat on the attic floor and began to read the letters one by one. Through Isabel's passionate and emotional words, he discovered the story of a deep love between her and Andres. The letters described secret meetings, shared dreams, and promises of a future together. But as he read on, the tone of the letters changed. Isabel spoke of a betrayal, of how someone close to Andres had conspired to separate them, and how that betrayal had broken her heart. Daniel realized that the betrayal Isabel spoke of had been the reason why she and Andres could never be together. The letters ended abruptly, making it clear that the relationship had ended painfully and irrevocably. As he read these lines, Daniel understood why Sophia's recent betrayal had affected his grandfather so much. Andres was not only facing present pain, but also reliving an old and deep wound. Taking the letters with him, Daniel went down to the living room where Andres was sitting, looking out the window. "Grandpa, I found something in the attic," he said, handing him the wooden box. Andres took it with trembling hands, and upon opening it, his eyes filled with tears. "Isabel," he whispered, immediately recognizing the letters. Andres began to read in silence, his emotions on the surface. After a while, he looked at Daniel with tear-filled eyes. "She was the love of my life, Daniel. I lost her because of a betrayal I could never overcome. Seeing what Sophia did, it reminded me of all that pain," he confessed, his voice breaking with emotion. Daniel sat next to his grandfather, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Grandpa, now I understand why you've been so distressed, but I also know that we are stronger than our wounds. Sophia made a mistake, but she's trying to make amends, and we are here together to keep this family's legacy alive." Andres nodded slowly, a mixture of sadness and relief on his face. "It's hard, but I think you're right. We can't change the past, but we can learn from it and move forward," he said, squeezing Daniel's hand gratefully. The revelation of the letters not only deepened the emotional connection between Daniel and his grandfather, but also allowed them to face the past with a new perspective. For Daniel, Isabel's letters became a symbol of the resilience and unbreakable love that defined his family. With this new understanding, Daniel felt more determined than ever to honor Andres' legacy. He knew that the true strength of his family lay not in avoiding pain but in facing and overcoming adversities together. And so, with the community's support and reconciliation with Sofia, they continued to work to ensure that the cafe not only survived but flourished as a symbol of love, hope, and unity. The cafe, now renovated and full of life, became a beacon of hope in the neighborhood. Every cup of coffee served, every pastry baked, was a tribute to the love and strength that kept them together. And although the scars of the past would never completely disappear, Daniel and his grandfather knew they had found a way to move forward together. As Daniel continued working tirelessly in the cafe, one day, a young woman walked in, with a camera hanging around her neck and a curious smile on her face. "Hi, I'm Elena," she introduced herself. "I work for the local newspaper and have heard so many wonderful things about this cafe and the story behind its renovation. Would you mind if I do a feature on you?" Daniel, surprised but delighted by the attention, agreed immediately. Elena spent several days in the cafe, interviewing neighbors, taking photos, and observing how Daniel and Andres worked side by side. As they spent more time together, Daniel found himself increasingly attracted to Elena's intelligence and enthusiasm. She had a special way of making everyone feel comfortable, and her infectious laughter filled the space with a warmth he hadn't felt in a long time. One afternoon, after the cafe had closed, Elena and Daniel stayed up talking for a long time. "It's incredible to see how the community has come together to support the cafe," Elena remarked, taking a sip of coffee. "It's a true story of resilience and love." "Yes, it's been a difficult journey, but also very rewarding," Daniel replied, looking at Elena with a mix of gratitude and admiration. "I don't know what I would have done without everyone's support, including my grandfather." Elena smiled, feeling the sincerity in his words. "That connection you have with your grandfather is really special. It reminds me of my relationship with my grandmother. She raised me and has always supported me in everything." Over time, the conversations between Daniel and Elena became more personal. They shared their dreams, fears, and aspirations. Elena talked about her passion for journalism and how she wanted to use her skills to tell stories that inspired others. Daniel told her about his love for the cafe and his desire to keep his grandfather's legacy alive. The connection between them grew quickly, transforming into something deeper and more meaningful. Elena not only documented the cafe's story, but also became an integral part of it. She brought fresh ideas to attract more customers and organize community events that kept the place's spirit alive. One night, as they walked together through the park after a long day of work, Daniel took Elena's hand and looked into her eyes. "Elena, since you arrived, everything has changed for the better. Your support and love have been invaluable to me and the cafe. I don't know what I would have done without you." Elena smiled, squeezing his hand. "You've changed my life too, Daniel. I found something here that I never thought I would find. A home, a family, and a purpose." From that moment on, Daniel and Elena were inseparable. Their relationship not only strengthened Daniel's spirit, but also breathed new life into the cafe. The neighbors noticed the chemistry between them and were happy to see how love flourished amid difficult times. The combined efforts of Daniel and Elena quickly bore fruit. They organized poetry nights, cooking classes, and charity events that attracted more people to the cafe. The cafe became a place where people not only came for coffee, but also to feel part of a vibrant and loving community. Elena decided to write an in-depth article about the cafe's story and Daniel and Andres' struggle. The feature was a huge success, attracting attention from people outside the neighborhood and bringing a wave of new customers curious to see the place they had heard so much about. The hard work and dedication of Daniel, combined with Elena's creativity and support, ensured that the cafe not only survived but thrived. Together, they not only revived Andres' legacy but also built a future full of hope and love. With Elena by his side, Daniel felt he could face any challenge. The cafe, which had started as an effort to save his grandfather's legacy, became a symbol of their mutual love and dedication. Together, they showed that, even in the darkest moments, love and unity could light the way forward. The reopening of the cafe was an event that marked a before and after in the community. The final preparations were frantic but full of enthusiasm. The freshly painted walls shone with warm colors, the restored tables and chairs were ready to welcome customers, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and baked pastries filled the air. On the day of the inauguration, the cafe was filled with neighbors, friends, and curious people who had heard about the rebirth of the iconic place. There were laughs, hugs, and a palpable sense of joy. Daniel, with a heart overflowing with gratitude and excitement, was busy making sure everything went perfectly. Elena, by his side, captured every moment with her camera, immortalizing the spirit of unity and love that permeated the place. Andres, although still somewhat frail, insisted on being present and giving a speech. Dressed in his best suit and with a proud smile, he stood in front of the crowd. Daniel and Elena supported him, one on each side. Andres looked at everyone with tears in his eyes, deeply moved by the community's unwavering support. "Dear friends," Andres began, his voice trembling slightly but full of emotion, "today is a very special day for our family and this neighborhood. This cafe has been my life, my passion, and a refuge for many of us. Seeing it reborn thanks to my grandson Daniel and the support of all of you fills me with a gratitude I cannot express in words." The crowd applauded fervently, and Andres continued, "This cafe is not just a business. It is a place where memories are created, stories are shared, and bonds are built. You, with your love and support, have shown that true strength lies in the community, in family, and in perseverance." Andres paused, looking at Daniel and Elena with eyes full of love and pride. "Daniel, you have proven to be a man of incredible strength and dedication. You have faced enormous challenges and emerged victorious, not just for yourself but for all of us. And Elena, your arrival has been a blessing, bringing new energy and love into our lives." With a lump in his throat, Daniel took the microphone. "Thank you, Grandpa. None of this would have been possible without your teachings and your example. I also want to thank all of you, our friends and neighbors, for being here today and for your unwavering support. Together, we have shown that love and unity can overcome any adversity." Elena, visibly moved, added, "This cafe is a symbol of what we can achieve when we work together and support those we love. It is an honor to be part of this story, and I am sure that the best is yet to come." The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. The atmosphere was filled with hope and joy. As the inauguration continued, customers filled the tables, enjoying coffee and pastries, and sharing laughs and stories. The cafe was alive again, buzzing with the energy of the community that had saved it. Daniel and Elena moved among the guests, personally thanking each one for their support. There was warmth in the air, a sense of achievement, and a promise of bright days ahead. The soft music and the bustle of conversations filled the space, creating a magical atmosphere that no one wanted to end. As the night progressed, Andres sat in his favorite chair, watching everything with deep satisfaction. He knew his legacy was in good hands. His grandson had proven to be more than capable of carrying the cafe forward, and with Elena by his side, he had found new love and new hope. The reopening of the cafe not only marked the rebirth of a family business, but also the reaffirmation of the values of unity, love, and resilience that defined that community. Every cup of coffee served, every pastry shared, was a testament to the indomitable spirit that had allowed them to overcome the darkest moments. That night, as the lights dimmed and the last customers said their goodbyes, Daniel and Elena stayed for a moment in silence, embraced, contemplating the space they had transformed with so much effort and love. They knew that the road ahead would still have challenges, but they also knew that, together, they could face them all. The cafe, revitalized and full of life, had become a beacon of hope and a reminder that, with love and mutual support, anything is possible. Daniel, looking into Elena's eyes, knew that they had built not just a successful business, but also a life full of purpose and love. With the cafe once again in full operation, the daily routine returned to a more stable rhythm. Regular customers came back, and new faces began to become regular visitors. The atmosphere was imbued with a renewed spirit of community, and each day was a celebration of the resilience and love that had made the business's rebirth possible. Sophia, after her return, worked hard to redeem herself and prove her commitment to the family. At first, some neighbors looked at her with suspicion, remembering her betrayal, but over time, her dedication and effort began to change perceptions. She arrived early, learned the coffee and pastry recipes diligently, and was always willing to help with whatever was necessary. One afternoon, while Daniel was preparing a batch of pastries, Sophia approached him, looking nervous. "Daniel, I know there are still wounds to heal and that I've made terrible mistakes, but I want you to know that I'm here to stay and that I'll do everything possible to regain your trust and Grandpa's." Daniel paused and looked at his sister. He had spent a lot of time reflecting on what had happened, and although the betrayal still hurt, he also knew that everyone deserved a second chance. "Sophia, we all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them and do everything possible to fix things. I'm willing to try, but it's going to take time and effort from both sides." Sophia nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "I know, and I'm ready to do whatever it takes." Working together, Daniel and Sophia began to rebuild their relationship, rediscovering the trust and affection they had always shared. It wasn't an easy process, but with each passing day, the wounds began to heal. Andres, seeing his grandchildren united again, experienced a deep joy and a sense of peace he hadn't felt in a long time. Elena also played a crucial role in this reconciliation. As another member of the family, she offered words of encouragement and mediation when necessary. Her unconditional love and support for Daniel naturally extended to Sophia, and her presence helped strengthen the family bonds. One day, while organizing a community event at the cafe, Sophia and Daniel took a moment to observe the hustle and bustle of customers enjoying coffee and pastries. "Look at what we've achieved together," said Sophia, her voice full of pride. "We've overcome so much, and now we're stronger than ever." Daniel smiled, nodding. "Yes, it's amazing what we can achieve when we come together, and I'm happy you're here to see it." The community continued to show its support in surprising and heartwarming ways. Neighbors organized charity events, cooking classes, and game nights, transforming the cafe into a true center of activities and social connection. The collaboration and collective effort had made the cafe a symbol of unity and hope. One afternoon, during one of these events, Andres took the floor again. He stood up, with the help of Daniel and Elena, and looked at the crowd with a warm smile. "I want to thank all of you for your unwavering support. this cafe would not be what it is today. Without each one of you, you have shown that, even in the most difficult times, we can overcome anything if we stay united. The ensuing ovation was deafening, filled with love and respect for the man who had been the heart of the community for so long. Andres, with bright eyes, continued, I also want to say that I am incredibly proud of my grandchildren, Daniel and Sophia. They have shown a strength and resilience that inspire me every day. This cafe, this legacy, is in good hands thanks to them and all of you. Tears streamed down Daniel's cheeks as he embraced his grandfather, feeling the weight of love and gratitude that surrounded them. Sophia joined the embrace, and the three remained united, sharing a moment that symbolized the rebirth not only of the cafe but also of their family. The community's support had been the pillar upon which they rebuilt their life and business. And now, with the cafe thriving and family bonds stronger than ever, Daniel knew they could face any future challenge. The cafe remained a beacon of hope and a reminder that, with love, forgiveness, and unity, anything is possible. The cafe, now a beacon of hope and resilience, had become the heart of the neighborhood. Each day, the place buzzed with the energy of the community, with laughter, animated conversations, and the intoxicating aroma of fresh coffee and pastries. Daniel and Elena, working side by side, had achieved not only reviving the business but also strengthening the bonds among the neighbors, creating a space where everyone felt welcome and valued. The legacy of love and hope that Andres had cultivated for so many years was more alive than ever. With every cup of coffee served and every pastry baked, the cafe told a story of overcoming, unity, and perseverance. Daniel and Elena, inspired by Andres' example, continued to innovate and organize events that attracted people from all over. From live music nights to cooking workshops and motivational talks, the cafe had transformed into a true center of activities and a haven for all. Sophia, fully reconciled with her family, showed her commitment and love for the cafe. Every day, she had found her place, not only as part of the team but also as a person, dedicated to mending her mistakes and contributing to everyone's well-being. The neighbors welcomed her back, admiring her effort and transformation. One day, Daniel and Elena decided to organize a grand celebration to mark the first anniversary of the cafe's reopening. News of the event spread quickly, and the entire neighborhood turned out to help with the preparations. The decorations were a community effort, with lights, garlands, and flowers adorning every corner of the place. The anticipation grew as the day approached, and the excitement was palpable. The big day arrived, and the cafe was bustling with life from early on. Andres, with his health visibly improved, was one of the first to arrive, excited to see so many familiar and new faces. The neighbors brought homemade dishes, creating a feast that reflected the diversity and love of the community. Live music filled the air, and people danced and laughed, enjoying the company and festive atmosphere. Daniel took a moment to observe the crowd, his heart filled with gratitude. He remembered the hard times, the nights of uncertainty, and the mornings of tireless work. But he also remembered the moments of support, the friendly hands, and the words of encouragement that had made it possible to get to this point. Elena, always by his side, hugged him and kissed his cheek. "We did it, Daniel. Look at what we've built together." Smiling, Daniel took the microphone and asked for everyone's attention. "I want to thank you all for being here today. A year ago, we were facing an uncertain future, but thanks to your support and love, we've achieved something incredible. This cafe is not just a business, it's a symbol of what we can achieve when we come together." Elena, holding Daniel's hand, added, "This community has shown time and again that together we are stronger. We've created a place where everyone feels welcome, and that's something we should all be proud of." Andres, with tears of pride in his eyes, stood up and joined them. This place has been my life, and seeing how it has flourished thanks to my grandchildren and all of you is the greatest gift I could have received. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart. The ensuing ovation was deafening. The joy and love in the air were tangible. The celebration continued well into the night, with people sharing stories, laughing, and enjoying the moment. It was a night that would be remembered by all as a testament to the strength and spirit of the community. Over time, the cafe solidified as a landmark in the neighborhood, a place where new friendships were forged and old ones strengthened. Daniel and Elena, working together, became an unstoppable team, inspiring others with their story of love and perseverance. Sophia, having found redemption and purpose, continued to contribute with her creativity and energy. Andres, enjoying his days surrounded by family and friends, lived with gratitude and joy, knowing that his legacy was in good hands. The cafe, more than a business, was a monument to love, unity, and hope, a reminder that no matter how dark the times, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. And so, the story of Daniel, Elena, Andres, and Sophia became a source of inspiration for all, demonstrating that with love and mutual support, any challenge can be overcome. The cafe was not just a place to have coffee. It was a symbol of the best of humanity, the ability to heal, forgive, and build a better future together. What an exciting journey we've just experienced together. But this is only the beginning. Click on the next video that appears on your screen and keep enjoying amazing content. If you want me to keep bringing you these stories every day, consider supporting me with a coffee through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the pinned comment. Your support is what makes it possible for me to keep telling these stories. See you in the next video.